Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
The Piston Cup has a lot of laps, as every race has had at least 200 laps. And at least one car had to be in the lead during every lap. This means that a lot of Piston Cup racers have led laps. But you might wonder, who were the worst Piston Cup racers to lead a lap? Well, considering that some pretty average racers have led a lot of laps, and this video will be covering the 5 worst Piston Cup racers to ever be in first place during a Piston Cup race. Now, 5th on this list is Nick Charger. Yes, Nick Charger has led a lap in the Piston Cup. Not only did Nick Charger, at the very least, briefly take the lead during a race, Nick Charger led for an entire mile, leading for 1.1 miles in total. The one lap he led was during the 1988 Daniel 500, the same race where Don Chapcar unfortunately died. This one race was also Nick Charger's greatest ever race, as he finished 13th in the race, getting his only top 20 finish. At the very least, Nick Charger can say that his only lap led wasn't off of pit cycles. Now you're probably wondering, who could be worse than Nick Charger, who has also led a lap in the Piston Cup? Well, number 4 on this list is Randy Revkins, who spent most of his career as a backup racer and racing in the second division. But somehow, Randy Revkins took the lead in a Piston Cup race. This race was early into the 2000 Piston Cup season, where Randy Revkins would take the lead for 743 yards off of pit cycles. And Randy Revkins never finished in the top 20 in a race, and also spent less than 1 mile in the top 5, making him even worse than Nick Charger. At least Randy Revkins can say that he didn't fail to qualify for as many Piston Cup races as Nick Charger. But who could be even worse than Randy Revkins to lead a lap in the Piston Cup? Number 3 on this list, Todd Lagasse. The 2 other racers I mentioned on this list were racing during the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. But Todd Lagasse would not begin his Piston Cup career until 2011, where he would lead his only Piston Cup lap, leading for 732 yards. This lap was also led during the 16th race of 2011, a race that Maury Clutchburn won because Lightning McQueen gave up the lead. Todd Lagasse would also lead his only lap off of pit cycles, and would somehow finish the race on the lead lap. At the time, Todd Lagasse looked like he was going to become a good Piston Cup racer, but as time has shown, that was very wrong. And the second spot on this list is a racer from all the way back in the 1950s, Albert Undercarriage. You're probably wondering, how is he even worse than Todd Lagasse? Well, he only led 1 lap in a race in 1952, where he led for 338 yards. And these 338 yards were only led because the Hudson Hornet was going for a pit stop. Same with other Piston Cup legends. This left Albert Undercarriage in the lead. And after the pit stops were done, Albert Undercarriage would lose the lead, and never again would he be in first during a Piston Cup race. But how is he worse than Nick Charger, Randy Revkins, and Todd Lagasse? Well, in the 1950s, there were 60 Piston Cup races a season. In the 1951 season, which was his best, he only qualified for 3 races at a time when 60 racers were allowed to race. But even worse than Albert Undercarriages, first spot on this list, Will Draftrev. Will Draftrev is the worst Piston Cup racer to ever take the lead in a Piston Cup race, only leading for 123 yards. That he led from lap 378 to lap 379 of the 2003 Michigan 400, the 15th race of that season. Will Draftrev was on the lead lap with 25 laps to go in a Piston Cup race. Usually, you would expect Will Draftrev to already be out because he had an engine failure in the first 10 laps. But during pit cycles, when there were only 22 laps left, Will Draftrev would take the lead. But after 123 yards, he would lose the lead. But unlike the other 4 cars on this list, Will Draftrev led over the start-finish line. But after the 123 yards were done, Will Draftrev would lose the lead. And he would still finish on the lead lap for this race. Although, he didn't finish in the top 30. And that is the worst Piston Cup racer to lead a lap. This shows the standard of some of the cars that have taken the lead during a Piston Cup race. And only Nick Charger, out of all of these cars, was ever able to finish in the top 20 during a race. And also, none of these cars ever finished in the top 40 in points. Ever. And also, all of them have failed to qualify for at least 90% of the races that they tried qualifying for. Even Albert Undercarriage in the 1950s. How do you fail to qualify during the 1950s? Well, now that you've seen some of the worst Piston Cup racers to lead a lap, you might think, I'm better than those guys. I'm going to go lead a lap in the Piston Cup.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
To show some better racers who've led laps in the Piston Cup, Darren Leadfoot, who didn't really qualify for many Piston Cup races, still led over 3,000 laps in his career. And his older brother, Gerald Leadfoot, the Rust-eze racer before Lightning McQueen, still led 10 laps in the Piston Cup. And the next video that I'll be making on this channel is the top 10 meanest Piston Cup racers. Spoiler alert, all 10 of them have led at least 1 lap in the Piston Cup. At least. None of them will be leading any laps in the 15th race of 2016. The video covering that race will be coming out later during the Advent calendar. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on. The Ukrainian people just wanted to live in peace and have freedom, but this common dream was ruined by the tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin, who began this mess over 1,000 days ago in February of 2022. Now, it's December of 2024, which means that it's been nearly 3 years since this senseless invasion began. And currently, around 20% of Ukraine's land is illegally occupied by Vladimir Putin's tyranny. Despite gains in Russia's Kursk Oblast, every day it gets harder for Ukraine to win the war because of dwindling supplies. We here at the K.A. Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava, nechai Shvetsya daroretsia, Ukraini permoha. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.